Hello, I am Brian and I will be presenting on soybeans. I like soybeans because they're in most of the things that I eat and I just love the flavor. Most eaten things are fermented products like soy sauce and sprouts. Since their international success as a crop during the 11th century, there are now over 2,400 types of domesticated soybeans, with 2,500 now naturally occurring. The most eaten varieties are natto and tempeh, which are both yellow soybean-based products. Around 80% of all soybeans are fed to livestock for their high protein and carb count. This helps them be healthier and have better fat and meat contents. As you can see, soybeans are a great source for just about any dietary need. The average soybean contains around 34% protein, but they are able to have up to 42% protein uh, inside of them, depending on the type. This is why there are so many protein products like bars, protein powder, and sometimes protein shakes. Usually you make those yourself though. The botanical name for soybeans are Glycine max and are part of the Fabaceae family. They are dicots. Soybean flowers are perfect, which means they contain both male and female parts. The flower shape is zygomorphic, which means it is bilaterally symmetrical. They are also able to pollinate with one another and are able of self-pollination. Although soybeans can be made into several hardy foods, they're not themselves considered hardy and can die fairly easily if left alone. The only resistance soybeans have is to root rot, even though root rot is a very dangerous thing for them and happens all the time. The two most harmful diseases and infections are root rot and SCN. SCN is a soybean cyst nematode, which is a parasitic worm-type creature, I guess. And it basically just eats out the stem and everything else and makes the soybeans unedible and plant die very fast. Growing soybeans is simple and its different maturities are usually apparent for any onlookers who are used to them. They have 8 major stages of maturation. They love lowland thickets and perform best in hot and moist soils. Usually breeding happens in the V3, R1, and R3 stages, which you can see in the picture, while collection stages of the beans can go from R3 to R7 stages of development. Soybeans like moderate to low elevations in hot and moist climates. They grow best in moderate to high precipitation and like moderately sandy soils as well as loam soil. They like warmer climates because they were bred there for thousands of years. Some causes of soybean deaths by climate and the ecosystem include ground frost, snow, root rot, diseases, parasitic infestations, like the nematodes I was talking about before, too little sun, hail damages, flooding damages, and animal damages. The worst animal damages are usually from burrowing things like groundhogs and moles and all of that. In farms, there are some protections against the elements, which include checking soil health and the temperature of it, some pesticides Usually, sulfur treatments are used for dry rot and mold, and some of anti-frost applications. Some anti-frost methods include heated irrigation systems, some sap solutions, and water sprays before snowfall. You can also do field nutrition checkups in both the plant and the soil. The soybean plant originated in northeastern China, which you can see in the far right corner of the picture, and it has been recorded domesticated since the late 10th and 11th century. But that's just when it became a traded good internationally, and Europeans wrote about it. However, speculations argue that there have been domesticated versions of the soybean for almost 9,000 years. The soybean in the US is one of the most heavily farmed plants for international and national trade. Its prices per bushel are consistent with inflation and at some points have been higher than the inflationary index of the US economy. However, it averages 5% less over the past 10 years, which is good for consumers because that means that it is most likely more affordable. It is consistently growing in price, and compared to corn, it has become costly. Its average inflation rate compared to corn is 2% or more per year, where corn is only around $4 to $5 per bushel, while soybeans are more than 14 per bushel. The three most major producers of soybeans are Brazil, US, and Argentina, in that order. This past year, Brazil has made over 150 million tons of soybeans, while the US falls behind at around 128 million. These three countries count for over 78% of the total global production for soybeans. China, the birthplace of soybeans, come in fourth place, which is the dark red sections on the graphs. Soybeans are processed like most grains and beans in highly aerated facilities that usually are cold and dark most of the time. These places can be warehouses, barns, or just holes, I guess. Preparation methods include fermentation, roasting, drying, crushing for powder, and just for planting. Soybean roots and beans are used for fermentation process and for different dishes. And just like many other things, they are powdered for their intense content for protein and oils. Soybeans are great reproducers. Like many other flowering plants, they can self-pollinate and have various preferred varieties. Conventional hybridization and marker-assisted selection are the popular breeding types for these plants. They have almost all gained the E3 trait, which gives resistance to pesticides and some poisons that are used. And recent tests have allowed scientists to accurately splice and sequence their DNA for hardier and better production. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you learned something. Here are some of the links to all of the stuff that I used, I works cited.